The holiday season is right upon us. Festive discounts, Black Friday sales, exciting offers. These are just some of the buzzwords around town right now. But here are a few other buzzwords doing the rounds in America. Inflation, a supply chain crisis, and of course the pandemic. All this will impact shoppers and retailers during the holiday period. Welcome to WION World is One. My name is Priyanka Sharma, and on this special broadcast of the WION-VOA Co-Production, we'll show you the impact of inflation on American shoppers and businesses. So let's get started. Now, this holiday season is already looking very different for retailers and shoppers alike. Experts say that the supply chain issues, the pandemic, inflation and online sales will all impact holiday shopping. Our next report coming from Voice of America brings you more details.
In 2021, just like the previous year, the majority of holiday season shopping will likely be done online, say experts. The ease of online shopping is one pandemic lesson. According to research by Adobe Digital Insights, sales during the 2021 holiday season could top $207 billion in the US alone. But that doesn't mean things are back to normal, according to Vivek Pandya from Adobe Digital Insights.
But because of the pandemic and because of these global supply chain issues, we're seeing prices kind of come into the season about 3% higher than what we've seen in the past. And then those actual discounts are becoming weaker. So as a result of the demand surges and more limited availability, the prices start to move up across these goods online.
And supply chain issues are prompting businesses to start cutting prices early and not waiting to start the Christmas in a mad rush on the day after Thanksgiving, called Black Friday.
Retailers don't necessarily want there to be a mad rush of orders placed right before, the Christmas holiday, for example, because they might not be able to fulfill those kinds of orders. So it's in their best interest to kind of shift demand earlier.
Isaac says due to supply chain problems, stores are more focused on having the most popular items in stock rather than a variety of options for consumers. Consumer psychologist Dana Hoffman says holiday shoppers may be disappointed.
I think many people in the United States anyway have this attitude that, it's kind of normal. We're back to normal. And they're going to expect that kind of normalcy maybe when they go online. I think retailers need to get ready for the onslaught of returns. So maybe more than any other time, I think there's that frustration is going to turn into a lot of disappointment.
Online shopping has also changed the concept of holiday shopping on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving.
In the past, it was Cyber Monday, right? Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Now it's this holiday shopping. It's like Cyber November. It's Black November. There's a lack of CDL, commercial driving licensed individuals. So there's a definite labor shortage of those individuals. There's a massive labor shortage of retailers.
Experts advise consumers to be less picky choosing gifts this year and always have a plan B if something doesn't quite go according to plan. Maxim Moskalko for VOA News, Washington.
To speak about this further, we're now being joined by Voice of America's correspondent, Chris Casquejo from Washington. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. My first question for you, the US and other major energy-consuming nations, India, China and the United Kingdom, are releasing oil from strategic reserves. And now President Joe Biden says that he has other plans to ease the financial burden on Americans. Why is the timing of this important for US consumers especially?
Good morning from the White House, Priyanka. The timing is important because today is known as Black Friday. It marks the traditional start of the holiday shopping season until Christmas here in the U.S. And President Biden hopes his moves will help put more money in Americans' pockets in the face of rising inflation. Let's start with energy prices. Experts say releasing oil from strategic reserves, along with other nations, is designed to send a message to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, known as OPEC. That message, the U.S. and other countries will release oil from reserves to lower prices if OPEC does not increase production. And experts also say it's designed to send a message to Americans that the president is trying to bring down gas prices, which are at record highs in most of the U.S. Biden also this week renominated Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, who kept interest rates low during the pandemic in order to foster consumer confidence. And his administration has been working to fix the supply chain issues that have kept goods off store shelves. The president is also pushing a $1.75 trillion social spending and climate bill that, if it passes the Senate, would help transform the American economy. This week, Biden noted that the world's largest economy has emerged from the pandemic better than expected. But economists say even the U.S. economy might be no match for simple supply and demand. And right now, supply-side issues have led to higher prices.
Right, Chris, now this weekend is a long holiday weekend for most Americans for Thanksgiving, and many U.S. families are now gathering for the first time during the pandemic. But now the U.S. plans to increase vaccination rates, and that is also running into some obstacles. So what is happening on that front?
Priyanka, U.S. health officials just recommended this week that all adults should receive vaccine boosters. But 26% of all Americans, including those 5 and older, have yet to receive even one dose. For Thanksgiving, 2/3 of Americans plan to see family or friends outside of their households, regardless of vaccination status. But the Biden administration has paused its plan to require employers with more than 100 workers to put in place vaccine mandates because of a court challenge. In the large U.S. state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican, signed a law imposing fines on businesses and hospitals that require inoculation against COVID-19 without alternatives. And Disney World, a big employer in the state and major tourist destination, put its worker vaccination policy on hold. And here's another topic related to the pandemic. U.S. roads have become much more dangerous. The U.S. Department of Transportation says road fatalities are at their highest level since 2006 for just the first half of this year. An estimated 20,000 people have died on American roads. The reason? Roads have less traffic with many people still working from home, so more drivers are speeding while engaging in risky behavior like using their mobile phones. Also, the pandemic has meant fewer police officers to patrol the roads.
Right, Chris, thanks for these inputs. Stay with us on this broadcast. We'll come back to you for more inputs on another story. Moving on now, Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis will be the focus of high-level meetings between the country's Taliban rulers and, of course, the U.S. State Department. The special representative for Afghanistan, Thomas West, will now head to Doha in Qatar and next week for meetings with Taliban leaders. West told VOA in an exclusive interview that the U.S. is deeply concerned about the humanitarian crisis in the country. Take a look at this next report.
Conditions are dire in many parts of Afghanistan, with the United Nations World Food Program saying almost 24 million people, or 60% of the population, are suffering from acute hunger. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said U.S. Special Representative Tom West will discuss issues of vital U.S. national interest, including counterterrorism and humanitarian assistance, with Taliban leaders in 2 days of meetings in Doha, Qatar. In an exclusive interview with VOA Tuesday, West said Afghanistan's worsening humanitarian crisis has a lot to do with the loss of international aid. The Afghan economy depended on that aid to a large degree over 20 years.
Some 75% of the former government's public expenditures were foreign donor funded. Some 40% of the country's GDP was foreign donor funded. And so really in our engagement, and frankly in our allies and partners' engagement with the Taliban over a period of years, we made clear that if they chose a military path to power, that aid would disappear, and that is what occurred.
Last week, the Taliban's foreign ministry spokesperson called on the U.S. Congress to release Afghan assets frozen after the Taliban takeover of the country. He said the economic misery at home could prompt a mass exodus and refugee problems for other countries. West said it is not as simple as the Taliban might think to get aid that is frozen in the U.S. and other countries moving again.
There are very complicated legal reasons as well as judicial reasons for why that money is not moving from particular banks into other places.
There has been some localized progress towards U.S. and international demands for the Taliban to respect human and women's rights. Schools for girls from grades 7 to 12 have reopened in Afghanistan's third largest city, Herat. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
For more on the story, we still have Voice of America's correspondent Chris Casquejo with us on this broadcast from Washington. Chris, now thousands of Afghans flocked to the Kabul airport in a desperate bid to escape Afghanistan after the Taliban took over in August. We all remember the scenes of Afghans handing over their children over barbed wires to U.S. forces. What can you tell us about a recent reunion for one of those families?
Well, it's somewhat of a happy ending with a little bit of mystery. 18-month-old Farzad was one of the children handed over barbed wire to U.S. Marines. His father worked for the American Embassy in Kabul. Farzad's uncle, Ahmad Zwarzada, was also trying to get his family out. He says the two families handed over 3 of their children. The families entered the airport 3 hours later and were reunited with 2 of the 3 children, but baby Farzad was nowhere to be seen, so his father actually left the airport to look for him. The 2 families made it out of Afghanistan to a camp in Qatar, leaving a father to search for his son in Kabul. For 17 days, his 18-year-old mother did not know her son's whereabouts or well-being until receiving a message from a family in Norway that Farzad was safe with them. Farzad stayed in Norway for 43 days while his mother was shifted to a camp in the U.S. Farzad was transported to the U.S. after a DNA test. The mother and son were finally reunited. The family now lives in the state of Virginia here in the U.S. and are praying for a reunion with Farzad's father, who is still in Kabul, hoping to be evacuated by the U.S.
Right, Chris. Now, the U.S. is taking aim at the Islamic State's affiliate in Afghanistan by sanctioning some of the group's top officials. How will these moves help in counter-terrorism efforts?
The group, known as Islamic State Khorasan Province, ISIS-K or ISIS-KP, is an Afghan affiliate of the central ISIS group in the Middle East. The U.S. State Department this week designated 3 senior ISIS-K leaders as specially designated global terrorists. That SDGT designation clears the way for Washington to block them and their associates from accessing money and assets that come into contact with the U.S. financial system. The top UN diplomat in Afghanistan recently warned that ISIS-K seems to be present in nearly all Afghanistan provinces and are increasingly active. U.S. officials estimate ISIS-K now has at least 2,000 hardcore fighters, mostly organized in cells across the country. Those numbers were bolstered after the Taliban emptied out key prisons as their forces advanced across Afghanistan in August.
Right,
Priyanka?
Chris, thank you so much for all those inputs, and thank you for joining us on this special broadcast.